So if you've ever wondered how to be more productive at home, I've got 12 tips to be more productive coming up. Hello, I'm Andrew and welcome to the Dad Manual. And this is my attempt as a dad, and only a dad, to talk about how to be more productive at home. The first tip that I have is to get enough sleep. If you're not getting at least 6 to 8 hours, depending on your body type, then you know what? You're not waking up refreshed, and that's going to hurt your productivity. The second tip that I have is to make your bed every single day, and do it immediately after you get up. As Admiral McRaven talks about in his book, Make Your Bed, it's important to get some early wins when you're starting your day. The next tip that I have is to follow the 2-minute rule, which is basically if you have a task that you come across in a day that will only take a couple of minutes, you're better off just knocking it out, getting it done, instead of putting it on a list in order to do later. And that's a great segue into my next tip, which is to keep a tidy house or to keep a tidy workplace. Notice I didn't say clean. I'm not asking for you to scrub toilets, brush down baseboards, or anything of that nature. What I am saying is if you live in a hoarder house, it's going to be a whole lot harder to find what you need in order to get something done. The next tip that I have is to be optimistic. And for those of you wondering how you're going to accomplish this, my best advice is to fake it until you make it. If you read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, you find he puts a huge emphasis on enthusiasm. And there's actually a saying in there, if you act enthusiastic, you will be enthusiastic. That saying is taught in Carnegie courses all across the nation. And it is something that if you practice and you find yourself acting enthusiastic, pretty soon it permeates to those around you. And when you're enthusiastic, you're motivated. You're ready to take on the day. You're ready to tackle the next project. So I want you to look in the mirror and I want you to tell yourself, if you act enthusiastic, you will be enthusiastic. The next productivity tip that I have for you is to evaluate the different types of waste that exist in your life. If you've ever done any studying with the Six Sigma process, and you've tried to continuously improve anything in your entire life, you've probably heard before that there are 7 different types of waste. Those wastes, in no particular order, are overproduction, inventory, motion, defects, overprocessing, waiting, and transport. The ones that I have found that are easiest to tackle on a personal level are motion, waiting, and transport. For example, my daughter has dance class every Tuesday. That dance class is about 10 minutes away from where we live, and it lasts about an hour. This means I have typically 2 different options if I'm going to be the one taking her to and from dance. In the first option, I can drop her off, come back home, leave to go pick her up, and then bring her back home. This is a waste of transport. In the second option, I can drop her off and just decide I'm going to go ahead and wait inside the parking lot until she gets off. This is a waste of waiting. Now, wastes conflict against each other, but that doesn't mean you can't come up with a good solution to solve both problems. In our case, pandemic aside, we like to carpool as much as we can. This allows one group of parents to go drop off children and another group of parents to go pick them up. So that way we're not constantly having this back and forth. Another example would be going out to eat. In terms of productivity, it's typically a double whammy. Not only is there a prep time to get ready, a travel time to get there, a wait time for it to be produced, but at the end of the day, you're paying more for the service of having somebody else present you the food, which means there's a time that has to be paid in a work day in order to pay for that. Whereas if you were able to take care of the stuff at home, you could do it not only cheaper, but probably quicker. So the 7th tip that I have is to listen to books rather than BS in the background. Regardless of whether or not you're driving, you're cooking, or you're going out on a walk, these tasks all are controlled by your subconscious mind. And it seems to me to be more productive. You can get some learning in rather than just listening to your favorite tunes all the time. Personally, last year, in 2020, I listened to 10 separate books with an average of 8-hour listening time during these activities, which meant I picked up a lot of time I didn't have to waste later on learning different skills. The 8th tip that I have is to self-impose deadlines so you can prioritize properly. This is a big one, guys, because if you don't prioritize, things just aren't going to get done. They're going to get pushed off to the wayside, and you're going to find yourself walking around playing Pokemon Go instead, performing meaningless tasks. The ninth tip that I have is don't focus on perfection. 10 tasks finished is almost always better than 1 task finished to perfection. As a parent, you're going to get pulled in 17 different ways. Instead of focusing on having the baseboards scrubbed so that way they're so clean you could eat off them, instead focus on just decluttering the house and picking up the big stuff so that way you're tidied up. The 10th tip that I have is, if at all possible, delegate, delegate, delegate. Whether you're at work or home, this is an important skill to learn. You can't take everything on your own. And even when it comes to your kids, if you have small kids, you can give them small tasks. Make them feel like they're part of the solution. Show them how easy it is to get a simple win. The next tip that I have is to create a system with clear boundaries. This is important inside of a productive day, as well as weekly, monthly, and in yearly increments. Don't get wrapped up in a day you're trying to be productive on working straight from beginning sunrise to sunset. You will find yourself drained at the end, and you will typically be less productive than if you took periodic breaks throughout the day. Now, I'm not suggesting these breaks are 2 hours, but I am suggesting you allow yourself to eat a healthy meal, and you allow yourself a few moments to decompress your mind of the task at hand. In addition to that, focus on weekly breaks of not having to work more than so many hours in a week. If you don't do that, you won't set aside proper family time with your kids. And when we look at larger groups of time, like say monthly and yearly, it's important to plan vacations where you're not going to be bothered by the outside world. I'm talking you're not working, you're not doing email, you're not focusing on anything other than just the experience with your family. The last tip that I have is to remember that as a human, your concept of time is skewed. To explain this, I want you to consider the lifespan of a fly. A fly lives for about 28 days. It has no concept that there are 4 seasons and probably has no concept that there's even a change of seasons. Instead, it only knows its 28-day lifespan. As a human, we don't have very long lifespans ourselves in relation to the planet. So we're trying to jam in thing after thing, today, and force things to get finished. That productivity focus actually causes you wear and tear and makes you less productive the more tired you are. So instead of focusing on how much you can get done in one day, focus on how much you can get done on a large time span. Because we find that we overestimate what we can get done in 1 day or 1 year, but typically we will underestimate what we can get done in 10 days or done in 10 years. Well, that about wraps up today's episode. What I want to know, though, is what tips you have to increase your productivity at home. Tell me about them down in the comments below. And thanks for joining me today. If you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up button. It really does help out the YouTube algorithm. And make sure you subscribe while you're down there. We post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And until next time, I'm Andrew Sherman, and this is the Dad Manual. And remember, failure isn't bad. Failure to try and learn is. Have a good one.